Steve,
Me either.
thanks for joining me today.
How you doing, Jimmy?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome.
Good.
It's a beautiful day outside.
It is. You look great. I know
Thank
you're
you.
retired, which doesn't mean anything because I know you're busy as hell.
I go to the beauty shop once a week to get my nails done. I'm just awesome from that
How
perspective.
come I've never run into you?
Yeah, wrong nail place.
So a little background is, Steve, you've been a part of Indigo from day one since we landed
Here in Colorado, yeah.
Colorado Springs.
Right.
Yes. And you've always been such a great fan of us.
Mhm.
And I want to thank you for that because it's been like 7-8 years, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, something,
So you-
7.5.
You've seen all our ups and downs. You know us very, very, very closely and know what we're all about. But I kind of pulled you here today because I want to talk about what went on this past sales season. Because, we're kind of closing the doors on the summer sales season. And I read some things and I wanted to get your input on how you thought it went for our real estate friends, the agents.
So if we talk about El Paso County, Colorado Springs.
Yeah, we're limited to that.
I think the last 6 months have been tough, rough. When you look at our inventory today, not including new builds, I think we're about 2995 just in inventory for residential, right?
Wow.
You put new builds on top of that, and I think you're about 3,400 and some change.
Wow.
Inventory is really high, right? And you would think that would be a buyer's market.
Right.
But I think what's happened in the last 6 months is I think folks are probably don't have as much money as they probably would like to have.
See, that's a great point because if I spin that to the mortgage side, it's even with first-time home buyers, they can get gifts from their family for the down payment.
Right.
But yet they're having a hard time just coming up with the closing costs because things have gotten expensive.
Right. Well, it's not only, I think, the cost to come to the table, whether that's closing cost and all the down payment that they need. We've come out of the last 4 years. It's been pretty rough. And I think when younger people think about interest rates, they learned interest rates were 3%, 2.75%.
See, I call those crack rates.
Right. And today we're what, 6.25%?
Yeah, 6.25%, 6.5%.
6.5%.
I think it was 6.3 today.
So I think that when the demographic that is buying today, and I don't know, maybe that's 35 to 45. I don't know. The interest rate causes some pause, and I think that's artificial.
Right.
I think it's artificial. You would think that with the inventory we have, it would be a buyer's market.
Right, but it's not.
But our sellers are really jacking up their prices, and it just becomes a challenge with where we are today. So I think the last 6 months for real estate in general has been rough. The inventory has continued to build. There's still homes are still being sold.
Right.
But I think that puts pressure on both the buy and the sell side agents. And again, you would think this would be a buyer's market, but I think that's been challenged. And then when you look at the next 6 months,
right,
I don't think it's going to change.
I don't think so either because I read a thing, and it says that $1 million homes are moving faster than.
That's the data I have. So when you look at the higher end market in Colorado Springs, I think it's moving okay. And I think first time home buyers, the entry level buyers, I think that's doing okay. So everything in between seems to be just kind of stalling. And what's the reason? I hear lenders say, well, the interest rates are coming down. Well, we've got two guys in the Fed. We got Trump and what's his name?
Jerome Powell.
Powell. They're still arguing, right?
Well, I think people think
so. As long as they continue to argue, what's going to happen? Somebody has to win that argument.
Well, there's so many. The economy is not as strong as is perceived, I don't think, because with the cost of everything out there right now, we're seeing that companies aren't hiring as much.
Well, not only that, but I think we have a lot of folks that are worried about their jobs. Notwithstanding the government shutdown 2 days ago. I mean,
yes.
that's a whole different thing. But I think that the job market is a bit rough right now. And that's my impression.
No, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of stuff that's going on And when people think about the interest rates, they don't know all the different facets that go into making that interest rate, whether it goes up or down.
But don't you think that educating a buyer is really important? Because the average person is thinking, well, the interest rate's at 7 or 6.5. How am I going to afford that? There are a lot of ways to afford buying a home.
Absolutely.
And you shouldn't just stop and say, I'm not going to buy a home because the interest rates are crap. I don't have the down payment. There are a lot of programs out there that, as you know, this is your livelihood.
Yes.
That can help people do that.
And I think sometimes, like, we've talked about expectations with first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they want that dream home, or maybe they just can't afford it. And that's fine. You got to start somewhere. And like my mom and dad started in a 1,200 square foot home.
Yeah, but look at our culture today. Our culture is shifting. What that means is we have, in my opinion, we have young people who have lived with mom and dad for so long, they're used to a certain lifestyle.
Yeah, standard of living.
Whether it's in the basement or upstairs, whatever, it's a nice place to live. And then they step outside into the real world and they want to be able to have the same kind of thing their parents have to start off. And that's not realistic.
It's not.
Right. And that's tough for our young folks today, I think.
Do you think, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. Uriah and I did a show, I think it was last or 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure. And we talked about low income housing. And I hate that term, right? It should be just low cost housing, right? It's like we don't have a whole lot of that, in my opinion, to help get these people going, because what's the average price for a home in Springs? 500?
It's above that, I believe. I don't know the exact number. I would guess it's 545, 560.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact number. But I think that low-income housing is a misnomer. I think that when people hear low-income housing, they don't know how to process that. What is that? Is that for homeless people? Right. What is that? If you look at Colorado Springs over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, and the apartment construction has exploded.
Right.
And I think everything I've seen in the last 4, 5, 6 months, apartments have slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And single family new builds are starting to come up. So what is low income housing? I think you're right. It's less cost. But every generation's run into the same problem.
Yeah.
Right? It's how do I afford my first home? What does that look like? Are my expectations higher than what I can afford? And I think that's where the lender comes in to really help somebody normalize what they can afford. Because I think that a lender's job, and I'm not a lender, I think a lender's job is to help someone in their purchase so it's comfortable, right?
Exactly.
You know, you're doing a service to someone with someone to help them buy their home. It's going to be the most important purchase in their life, especially if it's the first time that they buy a home, right? So
it's our job to take the dreams into reality.
Yeah. So I think as a lender, you have in your hands their psyche, I guess is maybe how I would put it, and really protecting them and giving them the confidence that they need to be able to make that purchase. Because so often you get somebody who wants to buy a home, they get with a real estate agent and they may not have spoken to a lender. And so expectations are going to be adjusted at some point in time.
Exactly right.
So when we talk about low cost housing, don't you think that as a new home buyer, that's what we're talking about, really needs to understand what they can afford? Right?
I think that's a great point, but that whole conversation is about buying a home, but there's much more in that conversation of what expected as a neighbor. Now you have property taxes, now you have insurance.
Welcome to the world.
Yes.
We all live in this world.
And I think a lot of times they look at that principal and interest and think that's my payment.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, and there's a lot more to it.
Yes.
Right, because you look you look at, for instance, Colorado Springs utilities as of October 1, between I think it's 5 and 9, they're doubling the rate. So you get into your home and all these things start to change. The state of Colorado, homeowners insurance has skyrocketed, especially depending on where you live. If you want to buy a home in the mountains, you've got a problem because that premium is going to be very high.
Very high,
right?
Yes.
If you live in the forest, that's going to be a pricey premium. We have a lot of hail damage in town. So yeah, those kind of ancillary costs is what it really costs to live in your home. Right?
Well, they say, well, once you have a 30-year loan, that payment will never change. That's half truth. Principal and interest won't change.
Yeah, right.
They'll just balance each other.
Yeah.
But you have the homeowners insurance, maybe HOA, and taxes. Property taxes are not going to go down.
All right. When you look at Colorado Springs, we have a very large military community here.
Yes.
Right. Indigo is all about VA.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben, who owns Indigo Mortgage, he's all about our veterans, right? And so I think Indigo here in Colorado Springs, you're in a market where it's important that you take care of our veterans. And Jimmy, I know you do. Our veterans are important. So the veteran is here, or the active military, I should say. Active military is here for 2-3 years before they PCS from the Army perspective. And if they're not in their home right, guess what happens? They're having to put $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 on the table just to get out of the house.
Right.
And that's an awful thing to be in.
It's crazy.
So when you look at where our market is in Colorado Springs, I think that the next 6 months is going to be the same. So I think we have, when you look at it, last 6 months, the next 6 months, I believe we have a year of about the same stuff.
See, I think we've heard on Powell's last press conference when he lowered it a quarter point, he said there could be a couple more rate cuts by the end of the year. That's a question.
But do you think that's keeping people from buying right now? Where they're waiting for that next interest rate?
I think people see. I call the 3% interest rate the crack cocaine interest rate. Because I've had people say, I want to wait to get 3%. I'm going, it's never going to get 3% again unless we're in some type of bad situation.
Well, we don't want it at 3% again.
Because we're paying for it.
Right.
Paying for it now. So what they don't realize, too, is that even at 6 and a third, that's a great rate because historically they average around 8%. If you take all of them historically, the average interest rate over that period of time is like 8%. My mom and dad bought at 12%.
Yeah. I know my first home was 14.5, and that was a VA loan. And that was 1981.
Yeah, because the VA rates are always better. Who knows what conventional look like?
Right, yeah, exactly.
No, but I think Ben and I talked, and we think that it's going to be pretty much the same on the mortgage side. We're going to limp along, and then we're going to see what happens at the beginning of 2026.
Yeah.
And see where, but really, Steve, I don't know if we won't get below 5. I think we'll rest around 5.5 to 6.
Yeah, probably right. But I think that people in general need to understand, buy the house anyway.
Right.
Right. It is invest in your home now, because if you continue to wait, things change, right? Prices go up, interest rates fluctuate.
That house may not be there.
You might as well start investing now as opposed to putting. Why would you put it off? There's no reason to put it off.
There really isn't, because also if we're at 6.5 and then 6 months from now we're at 5.5, we could just refi.
Yeah.
Instead of just staying out of it because, I don't like that interest rate. And
you're missing an opportunity for your equity. Because every year, every 6 months, every 2 years you wait, your equity that you potentially could have realized is not there.
Right.
Right. You're just putting that off. And if you're 30 years old, you're 32 years old, and you continue to put that off, and then you say, okay, I'll buy my first home when I'm 35, you've lost 5 years of equity built.
Exactly. But they don't see that because everything is just pressed on the rate. Everybody just talks about the rate. And like you said, there's so much more to the rate.
Yeah.
The rate is just a number.
Right.
And that's what I tell my.
Yeah, but people are funny, right? Oh, it's the rate is 6.25. I'm going to wait to go till it goes to 5.45. Okay, but as I said earlier, there are plans around that banks can offer different lending rates. You look at the new home bill today. You can buy a new home for less than, I think, 5% interest. Right?
Yeah, because they got to get rid of them. I mean, builders are dying because they got to move the inventory. But with that being said, people will say, I'm going to wait. But then if it gets down to that point of, let's say, 5.5, we don't know how long it's going to be there. So by the time you find a house, do all your stuff, we may be, because of this last rate drop we had with the feds, the lenders baked that in 2 weeks earlier.
Sure.
So when this great news of we dropped a quarter of a point, we dropped it 2 weeks ago. So it's going to be an interesting situation moving forward, because I think you are so correct in the fact that people are sitting.
Yeah. They're waiting for the next interest rates. Don't do that.
No.
Go invest in your home, especially if you're a first home buyer.
Right.
Just go do it. And then I think, you have opportunity for move up and move down. If you're somebody who is 70 years old and you don't need 6,000 square feet. Right. Just go do it.
Yeah. And the thing is once you get in that first home, like you said, it may not be the dream home. Building equity, your credit score is going up, because that's
but you've got to buy right.
Right.
You have to watch the market, and you have to buy correctly. And I think sometimes you can buy a home that needs a little bit of TLC, right? And that builds equity.
And you know what? There's even loans out there for renovation, But I think that goes to my next point, is how important that real estate agent and mortgage broker relationship is. Because there's so much trust, right, that we both have for each other. Mortgage guy, don't blow it, right? Real estate person, help me out when I need stuff. And I think sometimes that may be looked upon as, well, we're doing just our roles, but they're quite mingled.
I think the right word is team.
Yes.
Business team. And I've said this to agents for as long as I've been around the business, which hasn't been terribly wrong. As a real estate agent, you must have a strong relationship with lender, or two, maybe three, right?
Right.
But your go-to lender relationship becomes critical, because as a team, you're going to put someone in a home.
Right.
And if that team is not functioning right, somebody's going to screw up, and the buyer is going to go out and buy a car 4 days before close. And guess what happens when that happens, right? Right. So I agree with you, Jimmy. I think that the lender relationship to the agent, the real estate agent, is really important.
Yeah.
So I wonder sometimes how it works, though. If you've got someone who is very, very internet savvy, and most of the younger people are today, they're going to go out and do Rocket Mortgage. They're going to go out online. They're going to get pre-approved. And how does that work with an agent, right? How does that come together? I think that creates some challenges too. For me, I'd rather be able to look you in the eye as a lender, and my real estate agent in the eye, say, okay, how do we do this? How do we create the best deal?
Yeah, and that is so true, because not only are they buying homes online, but I got an email from Zillow saying, do you want to come work for us as a mortgage originator?
Yeah.
You know where that went.
Yeah.
Right. But I had a client who went online and to a internet lender, and he called me to shop. And you know what? We tell all our clients to shop their rates, right? To get the best deal. And so he goes, and it was at a 5.5. And, we matched it and put him in a pretty good situation. But the internet guy said, well, you're going to have to sign this so we can proceed.
Yeah.
He took that like I am stuck.
All right.
And I said, no, all that means is we can start pulling docs.
Yeah.
Then he said, I said, you get your loan estimate. He goes, yeah, but it's at a 5.625. But I thought you locked at a 5.5.
Right.
Well, yeah, but he said, he'll fix it. I said, okay. If that slips through till closing, you're going to have a 5.625 loan.
Yeah, period.
Period. Okay. I said, call them and tell them to get you a new loan estimate now. But that's some of the stuff. He's a first-time home buyer.
Well, they don't know.
They don't know.
Right? It's like they have all of this information. ChatGPT. Okay, what do I do? How do I buy a home? What's the best lender? What's the rate? How do I negotiate all this? It comes down to people. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we have with first-time home buyers is they're doing this all the time. And they're not talking to people, right? We have to talk to people. We have to create a relationship that then you can ask the questions, you can understand what's going on, you can feel like you're involved in that process, and you can communicate what it is you want and how you want things to be. So, it's human contact, I think, is really important when it comes to buying and selling a home.
I told him, I said, here's the difference between the internet and me. I said, if you have a question, you're going to get me. I tell all my clients, call me at night, call me on the weekends.
And I know you tell them that for sure.
Then I pick up. But I said, who are you going to call if you don't get your original loan guy?
Yeah, right.
I said, you can come to me face to face, say, Jimmy, I'm pissed off. Why can't we do this? I said, we're talking face to face. You're talking to a screen.
But this is the perceived value. This is the value that the face to face, the relationship, the team between the agent and the lender brings to the client, right?
Right.
It becomes critical, I think, for the transaction to go smoothly. So bringing value the way you just described to somebody, I look at it, some people will say, well, that's great customer service. Yes, it is. For me, it's all about customer experience.
Right.
Like creating an environment where your client has the best customer experience that individual can have. And that's what you're bringing to the table as opposed to being behind the internet. Use the internet to get educated.
Right.
Really important. You're going to go buy something. You're going to buy a home. You're going to look up mortgage rates and get educated. But then go to the team and have a face-to-face relationship and discussion, because that's where the value is going to be, and that's what's going to put you more easily into the home that you want to buy.
Well, I agree. And even on the refinance side, if a person hasn't refinanced for 5 or 6 years, they forgot about how the process kind of works sometimes, right?
Probably so.
So again, that's why we're there. That's why real estate agents are people and not AI models that you talk to on the phone.
Right.
That's why I'm here. I think that human connection is the most important, but yet sometimes I think people think it's easier to do it online.
Well, you avoid, I tell people, young people today, especially going into business, what's the most important thing what's the most important skill set you could have? And one of them, I think, is, I say to people, talk with strangers. Right? Because when you're talking with strangers, you learn skill sets that you're not going to have behind that keyboard and monitor. Right? So right. I agree with you. Go out and talk to people. You're going to learn intuitively a lot more. Sure. Take the internet stuff, get educated, and then apply it.
Right.
Right. And then apply it.
And I think too, as somebody asked me, Jimmy, do you have any agents you can recommend? Oh yeah. I got 2 or 3 agents I can recommend.
How do you do that? How would you recommend an agent to somebody?
Okay, that's a great question. Because I tell them to look at the history. And there's nothing against new agents. There really isn't, because everybody's new at one point, right? If you have new agents, it's who's behind them.
Yeah.
How much support do they have behind them, where they're not afraid to say, you know what, I got to ask this question, and let me. And then to me, it's also personality. It's also a personality thing. Like, If you cannot even stand to talk to them, then why would they be your agent?
I think to take it from Trump, the art of the deal is from a sales perspective, a lender or an agent, a real estate agent, you have to bring the right thing at the right time for the right person, right?
Right.
So I think understanding your agent base and knowing when you sit down with a client, a potential client, how they would fit with this agent or that agent. You certainly, if you have a client who wants to buy in the mountains, you're not going to put them with an agent who sells new builds.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
If you have a client who's going to buy $1 million house, you're not going to put them with an agent that their average sale is $550,000. Right. So I think it's critical that you have the right knowledge of not only the client, but your real estate agent base so that you can create that team that we talked about.
Right.
So that you have success at the end of the day. That brings, I think, a really great customer experience, bringing the right agent to the right client, and that works beautifully.
And you see a lot of, I guess with me too, a lot of the baseline is how hard is that agent or mortgage broker going to work for the client, right? It's like you can sell $1 million homes.
Mm.
You can do a lot of $1 million loans, but if you're not, if we have a saying in Indigo, once a loan becomes a number, we've lost them.
That's absolutely true. Once you are, look, as a real estate agent, you're selling. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but you're selling yourself. You're selling the property. And as soon as you become a numbers person, you lose, right?
Automatically.
It is always about helping somebody do what they want to do, right? Whether that's that first-time home buyer, or it's that active military person, or that VA individual, or whatever it is. And as you were talking, you struck a nerve with me. I've trained a fair number of agents from the perspective of their business planning process. So in the last, 7 years, I've been able to sit with agents and watch how they plan their business and how they apply the plan to reality. And you want an agent who really is consistent over the long period of time, who says, this is my business. This is how I conduct my business. This is how I help people be successful in their real estate investment, because that's really what it is. If you have an agent that's none of those, that's an agent you probably don't want to do business with.
It won't be allowed,
because it's going to be a problem when you come to the closing table.
That is such a great lead into what I want to talk to you about now.
Okay.
I know you mentor a lot of real estate agents.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Here we go. You're right. Look how shy it gets all of a sudden. Oh, just a few. Walk me through that process. When a new real estate agent comes in and says, Steve, I need your help. How do you go mentoring? I'm like, what are your steps?
It's not so much mentor as it is helping them realize where they are and where they can be.
Steve, that's mentor.
And it comes to asking the right questions, right? Based on who you're in front of. Tell me about your business. What's working? What's not working? And one of the things you always see in this industry is a lot of the big coaches will say, you've got to know what your why is. Okay, you should know what your why is, but that's not, you don't build everything on that. I think sometimes agents, they get so wound up in the day-to-day stuff, they don't step back. I think it's okay to disengage, step back, and look at what you're doing, because then you're going to be able to evaluate where you're at, what you could be doing, what you should be doing. And so many agents treat this business like it's not a business, right? So sitting down with an agent...
Explain that. They treat it like it's not a business.
Well, think of it. Now, you and I have both been in the corporate world.
Yes.
Right? I work for somebody. I've run companies. I did a startup in China. It's a business. You run that business. You are intimately involved. You're the CEO of that business, or whatever your title is, right? And so I think so many times, especially new people who want to sell real estate, they don't understand that they have to be the CEO of their business.
Right. That they're just not working just for Remax, right?
You're working for yourself.
Right.
Right. And so to go back to your question, it's all about connection. Trying to understand where they're at, what they need, what's causing their success in the areas they're successful in, where they can do better, and how is really a conversation. And I think that my experience over a long period of time is sometimes coaches will say, and I'm not a real estate coach, some coaches will say, you have to do this, 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 and that.
Oh yeah, that's all over.
And they put you in a mold.
That's all over the internet, right?
And okay, I think some of that's true. You do have to do certain things. But I also think that everybody sells differently, right?
Yes.
And they have to sell how they're comfortable selling. But at the end of the day, sales 101 is always sales 101.
Right.
You have to ask for the deal or you're not going to get it.
You're not going to get it.
Right? Yep. So I can't tell you how many agents have said, well, I'm not a salesy person. Okay, I get that. You don't want to be that salesperson. So you want to help people get into real estate by purchasing or selling their real estate. Let's talk about the best way to do that. How do you do that, right? So it just depends on who the agent is and where they're at. I believe very deeply that you have to plan your business. If you're not planning your business, you're just going by the seat of your pants. And I will admit, I've come across some agents who are so good that they go by the seat of their pants and there's not a plan written down. And they're selling, 40, 50 a year. Okay, right?
Maybe that's their plan.
Maybe that's their plan. But I think for the average agent, you have to have a plan. So, sitting down and talking with an agent about where were you last year? What worked? What didn't work? What do we need to do for this next year? And there are a lot of aspects that go into that. And it doesn't matter whether you're selling real estate or selling something else.
Right.
You can apply that across every industry the same, but with differences, of course.
It's almost like, because I'm kind of like that. Like I say, I'm not a high pressure guy.
Sure.
Right. I just throw out there, and sometimes people take that, well, you're not aggressive enough. You're not asking for the deal. But also, when you said to that one, we were talking about that one example of the agent that says, well, I'm really not a salesperson, right?
Yeah.
It's also a matter of reframing.
That's exactly right.
It's like you're delivering a service.
At the end of the day, you are selling.
Right.
You have to get in the lane that you're most comfortable with selling.
Right.
And I got into the title business, so I don't know, a few years ago, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. And I quickly figured out that trying to sell title to an agent was not that difficult. You just, you could make it difficult. But the biggest thing was always, who do you close with? As soon as you do that, it's done. They don't want to talk to you about their closer.
Right.
So I had to really speak to somebody to understand their business, right? Their relationships. And I had an agent several years ago. I talked to him and I realized very quickly he's not going to leave his closer. So the lane I immediately went into, you pivot, right? You pivot into, you know what? I didn't mean to say that I want you to leave your closer. I'm here to help you, give you value for whatever you need. If you want to stay with that closer, stay with a closer. Well, I knew that some period of time down the road, a year or two, that's going to change because I'm not going to walk away. I'm going to continue to help this individual.
Right.
And sure enough, 8 months later, the agent came back to me and the agent said, Steve, it was really comfortable that you didn't pressure me, but I have a need now and I need a new closer. Can you help me? Right. So from a real estate agent perspective or a lender perspective, it's all about knowing what lane to be in with the individual you're with. And if you don't listen more than you talk, you're never going to figure that out. You have to understand, what value do I need to deliver to be successful for not only me, but my client.
That is so huge, because sometimes salespeople get in that mindset that if I don't get the sale now, I'm gone. Right.
And but there are some industries where that is the case.
But in our case, like the thing that we go against a lot too is when real estate companies have brokers in their
loan officers in their office. And
you don't want to step on those toes. But you're not going to say, well, just because they have them, I'm not going to go see them, because you never know when you can help them.
If you don't ask for the business,
you're not going to get it.
It comes down to how you ask for it.
Right.
Right.
And that's my point, is that you turn that into continuation of service to that agent.
Provide value to the individual.
Right.
And at some point in time, if you're providing the right value in the right way, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. It may just take longer than but what else are we going to do?
But that's where the pipeline becomes important. As a lender, you need a big pipeline, right? Because if you are working that way, where you know that somebody's like a year away, okay, you keep them in the pipeline. You continue to make those touches that you need to make so that they know who you are. And then you have other parts of your pipeline where it's 6 months from now or 2 weeks from now, right? So developing that pipeline is critically important. So talking to people is, I think, what that pipeline is all about.
Yeah, that's true, because we're always looking down the future, right? Because once that loan is closed, like in our case, we're already looking 30, 45 days down the line again, where we can get another loan in there and just keep feeding the pipeline. Yeah. But if, like you said, if you just limit your shots taken, then you're going to run out real easy.
I can't tell you how many times I was told no in my sales career. For me, no is yes, just not now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm not ready.
I'm not ready. Okay. Why aren't you ready?
I'll be back.
Right, I'll be back. But I think that the days of high-pressure sales are probably numbered, right? There are certain industries where the high pressure is there, but I think that's not where it's at. I think really reading people, understanding people, and bringing value to them, whatever that looks like, is where it's at.
Well, it's always been about, especially when you're in the people business, it's always about value.
Always.
It's always about that connection. And you're not going to connect with everybody, right? I know you do, but
I don't.
But there's some people that I've tried to connect to, and they don't want anything to do with me, and that's fine, because that connection, personalities have to mesh.
Right.
Kind of same goals. You want to take care of your people, all that other stuff. But I think you're right, where the high pressure thing is going away, because I have two kids, 27 and 25. They hate it.
Well, it's funny you say that, because, my dad, he was retired Air Force, and when he retired, he worked with my mom. They sold cars in this town. My mother was.
Oh, that's cool.
My mother was the best as I know, the first lady car salesman.
I was just saying, she's ahead of her time.
And then it was high pressure. I mean, this is like the used car salesman mentality.
Yes.
You go into a dealership today, it's different. They don't come at you.
No.
And you don't feel like you got to put the hand up and say, don't talk to me.
Right.
The feeling is different. So it's changed. And I think it continues to change. People don't like to be under pressure, but I think that a professional salesperson would never put anybody under pressure anyway.
No.
Right.
Because I think that type of stuff,
at least perceived pressure,
maybe that hidden pressure that they don't see.
You ask the right questions. You know what questions to ask that gets people to start thinking.
So what else when you're talking to these real estate agents? You talked about kind of what their plan is. What else do you talk about with them to help them get through?
I love these agents. I love our agents here in El Paso County. We have some really
Amen.
top-notch agents, people who do really good jobs, true professionals.
Yes.
Right. Going back to your question, they get sometimes in their head about the market. The market's just not moving. Okay, how do we go around that? Right.
Yeah.
I was always taught, if you didn't have a purchase order, go find a way to get a purchase order.
Right.
Right. Don't let something that's not there prevent you from creating something that you can have there. Right. So, people, they're human. They get in their own head, and then they get into these lulls. Right. If, for instance, we're coming up on December, January.
Right.
Inevitably, I hear from the agents, yeah, it's a slow time of the year. And so what do? They naturally slow down. And then come February, they don't have any deals in the hopper.
You know what?
Right?
That is
so mindset is a critical skill set that I think real estate agents really need to have, right? You got to get up every day. You got to do the same things every day.
Yeah.
You have to know how to pivot in the market. And I think if you're not doing those things, it becomes very evident as an agent because your psyche is down. How are you doing today? Oh, the market's really tough. Okay. So in talking to people, finding ways to get them to realize how to create opportunities, right? How do we create opportunities from a real estate perspective? And there's so many ways to do that. Whether your lead gen becomes really important, and your lead gen, I tell agents, can't be in one area, right?
Right.
You've got to have 4 or 5 different lead gen categories, if you will, to go into that pipeline. So don't just be so narrowly focused. Broaden that out. And
do you think they kind of get stuck in their doing the same thing over and over?
I think people get stuck in. When something's not working, they're not sure how to get out of it, right? And I think for me, what I learned a long time ago is you have to learn to disengage from what you're doing, step back, and revisualize what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right? And some people, people don't necessarily have that mindset to do that. Right. So when I'm talking with an agent and I see that's going on, it's like, okay, let's stop. Let's disconnect. Let's just talk about where you're at. What are you doing? What's causing these things to? Everybody has a life, right? And things go wrong and things go right in your life. And we allow those things to affect how we perform.
Absolutely.
Right. And so how do you keep the same performance day by day by day by day? Because those are the more successful people. And I think that comes down to systems and processes. So when I talk with an agent, I one of the questions I ask is, what are your systems and processes? Because I think that underpins everything they do.
Right.
Right. If you don't have a system and process, then why are you getting up in the morning and what are you going to do next? You don't. Oh, I don't know. I don't have a system or process. So I find that people in business who have systems and processes, and that's every business. That's not just the tech business I come from. It's real estate as well. Systems and processes make you successful, and staying inside those systems and processes is critical.
And that's the hard thing because everything's going good, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, we hit something. And now they're saying, I wonder if my system and process is right. And they may want to jump completely off.
Well, you look at what happened in 2007, 2008. The market crashed because of the banks, and. Those agents who were successful, they pivoted to the market and they provided value to the market. They changed, they didn't change a lot. They still had systems and processes in place. The market changed and they pivoted to what they needed to do, but their systems and processes were still there. So innovation, I think, is a topic of discussion. I think for any professional salesperson, but certainly inside of real estate, how do you innovate to the market? So, today UCCS had the economic forecast for 2026.
Oh,
I think it was the second one. And, I say that I've been going to that for, I don't know, 8 years, 9 years. And it's important because that creates data for you to understand what's going on in the market so that you can pivot in the market, right? That's just one example.
right.
So knowing what's going on in your market is important. So in your systems and processes, where are you, where do you have your hand on the market, right?
Right.
Because if you don't have the hand on the market, you can't pivot. And then it becomes very easy to say, well, the market is really bad and I'm not selling anything.
Well, when I first got into business with Ben, and for people that don't know, Ben Lucero is the owner of Indigo Mortgage.
Really cool guy.
And him and I have been best friends since the 7th grade. So we know each other and all our secrets and skeletons and all that stuff. But when I first got into business, I joined him in June.
Yeah.
And so we're coming up to the holidays. I said, man, we're going to be slow, aren't we? He goes, why?
Exactly.
I go, well, anybody going to the holidays? He goes, Jimmy, people still move. People still refinance. People get ready for January. He goes,
we get in our head, Jimmy.
Yeah.
And we convince ourselves that, it's a slow time. Okay. So how do you solve that problem? Right. So, so when I talk to agents about their business, it really comes down to what are you doing? How are you doing it? What are your systems and processes? And what do you do every day? And if you're not consistent, if you're all over the board, you're not going to close deals. Right. You're not going to help people.
Right.
Right. And so when you look at what's interesting is there's a statistic. It may be off a little bit because it's been a while since I've looked at it, but I think in El Paso County we have, I don't know, let's say 5,000 active agents.
I think it's 4,500.
Okay, 4,500 active agents. Last year when I looked at this number, and for the previous 8 years, it didn't really change. Of the 4,500 agents, less than 400, let's say 380, 390, were doing 13 deals and above. Everybody else, which is 4,100 agents, are doing 12 deals and below. What does that tell you? That tells you that the performing agents who are really at the top, when I went back and I asked the question, why are you successful? Most of the time, 99% of the time, systems and processes. So when I talk to an agent, we talk about their business. We talk about their systems and processes. If they don't have them in place, we talk about how we put, what are they? What do we put in place? And so on. So, yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. See, wealth of knowledge, my man. Yeah. Wealth of knowledge, but.
And one of the points of systems and processes is they have to have a good lender.
Amen, brother.
Right?
Preaching to the choir. No, that's true. And what we're starting to fight on our side of it is a lot of misinformation. And which drives us crazy because that's how they get them in the door, right? And so we've always been a company that is always about education. And we've had a saying that sharp our loan, right? If you can get a better deal and it's apples to apples, take that better deal.
Well, I can tell you, when I first got involved with Indigo, I forget what year it was, 2018 maybe?
Yeah, that's about right.
Something like that. And I met Ben. Yeah, what you said is true. I mean, that's true. But I think more importantly to me is the integrity of the Indigo business. Because integrity is, I think, paramount to success. And without integrity, you can't help people be successful. So what always impressed me about Ben and Indigo was the integrity of the business.
Yeah. So Ben's dad was a car salesman.
Yeah.
Right.
The good old used car salesman, right?
Raised 7 kids as a car salesman.
Yeah.
He sold my dad a car, a truck. And man, he was good.
Yeah.
But Ben's dad told him, you get up every day, you put your shoes on, and you get out the door.
You have to.
You
got to make your bed, right?
You go help people. You got to, right?
You know, that reminds me of a story. I was in high school, and my mom was selling cars. She sold for a Ford dealer here in town. And I went to see her after I got out of school. And now my mom grew up on a farm. She was one of 9 kids. Okay, she grew up on a farm. I walk into the dealership, and I asked the floor manager where Mom was. He looked. He said, "I think she's under that truck." Okay, and this is as clear as day to me. Okay, and so I knew enough not to interrupt. Right. Here she was on her back on a dolly with this rancher going through the underbelly of a pickup truck. Okay. It was product knowledge and how to apply the product knowledge to what this rancher's needs were.
Right.
Right. So as a lender, knowing your products, right, and knowing how to funnel those products to your client in a way that helps that client be successful in purchasing that real estate.
Right.
Right. So for me, product knowledge becomes incredibly important. Whether you're selling a home or you're selling a mortgage, and knowing your people and knowing your product knowledge, then you can create the value. Without the product knowledge, you can't create the value.
And then the process. Yeah. Because as you know, because you've bought homes many times, that it's not like you just sign you sign your little loan.
God, I wish it were that way.
And everything's hunky-dory. I mean, it can blow up on the lending side. Yeah. It can blow up on the real estate side. But if you are with them and you can get them through this with as less pain as possible.
So I have a perfect, because that's what I call project management, right? Project management inside the deal. We as salespeople, sales professionals, whether you're an agent or whatever you're doing, once you have a transaction going, you have to manage the project.
Absolutely, okay? You do.
And there are people who do that for the agents, right? There are people who do that for you. But at the end of the day, you're the project manager.
Right.
And you've got to keep your hand on that to make sure everything's going down the road to that closing table in a way that's going to be successful.
If you don't,
and so many people don't understand that, right? So in real estate, you're wearing so many hats. And that's the point. And you have to be good at wearing, if you have to wear 8 hats, you better be good at wearing it, probably 3 of those hats.
Yes.
And one of the keys is project management. Because I always say to people, when we talk about customer experience, inside of customer experience is customer service. Okay. Inevitably, something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Right. It comes down to how you as the project manager manage that issue so that the customer has good customer experience.
So true.
And if you're not managing that correctly and you have multiple customer service issues, guess what? The customer experience is crap.
And what they will remember is what you didn't handle.
Exactly.
They will remember all the stuff you handled in between that get them there, right? Because it was a good experience.
Exactly. And when my mom was selling cars, she said to me very early on, take care of your people and they will take care of you. Right. But you have to take care of the people. And even if you, I've been in situations where I can't solve the problem, but I know somebody who could.
Right.
And I'm not going to get the deal. And that's okay.
That's exactly right. Because they're not a number.
Right. They're not a number.
But this goes back to where we started about the relationship between the lender and the real estate agent. Because
it's critical.
It could be blow up on the mortgage side, but he's telling he's telling the real estate agent, hey, this is what's going on, but we have it under control.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Right.
Same thing. Jimmy, this came out.
Exactly right.
So
there you go.
It's been a pleasure, Steve. I missed you. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I've been kind of busy.
My friend.
You take care.
I owe you lunch.
Yeah, maybe. It'll be a good place.
Yeah, of course. Nothing but the best for you.